Students, families, friends, faculty, and staff, thank you for coming to this celebration. I'm Marcus Shantz, president of Conrad Grebel University College, and I'm honored to welcome all of you to Grebel's 2018 Convocation ceremony. Welcome to Conrad Grebel and welcome to the University of Waterloo. As all of you know, Conrad Grebel is affiliated with the University of Waterloo, and all of our students are University of Waterloo students. Our Masters of Theological Studies students will have their degrees conferred in part today, but everyone we recognize today will officially receive degrees at university congregations later on in the year. Soon you will all scatter into whatever comes next for you. This campus is situated on lands purchased from Mennonite farmers who began settling in this region over 200 years ago. But there were people here before that. These lands are the territory of the Anishinaabe, the Attawandaron, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We're situated on the Haldeman Tract, lands promised to the Six Nations by the British Crown in 1784. And we acknowledge this at all key college events. We do this to remember that we are implicated in the history of these lands, and also to remind us to continue building new and equitable relationships with our Indigenous neighbors. Although this ceremony will have solemn moments, one of the main purposes of Convocation is to express joy. And everyone is welcome to do that. Please feel free to laugh, to cheer, and to sing. Specifically, I know that families are here, and if you have very young children with you, please don't become overly troubled or embarrassed if they make noise, joyful or otherwise. Certainly don't muzzle them. Everyone is welcome at this celebration. Another purpose of Convocation is to say thank you. Graduation is an individual accomplishment, and you should ought to be proud of it. But you, all of you, have depended on others to get here. Patchwork quilts are made from individual scraps of fabric stitched together into a comforting blanket. Take a moment now to look at the patchwork quilt of people that's wrapped around you. Let me name them. There are your parents, your family, and your friends. There are Grebel faculty, your teachers and mentors. There are the Grebel staff who've been incredibly important to your time here, cooks and custodians, and student services staff and department staff, and librarians and others behind the scenes. And then there are people that you've perhaps never seen or thought about much, but in their own way are also part of the life of this college and help to make it possible. Board members and representatives from Mennonite Church Eastern Canada, and alumni, and donors to scholarships and bursaries. Students, would you join me in thanking these people? And now, I'd like to thank you students on behalf of everyone here at Grebel. Whether you're a master's student in peace and conflict studies or theology, or whether you're an undergraduate who's come through our residence program, thank you. All of us are impressed by you and by the community that you've created here at Grebel these past few years. We're impressed by your academic accomplishments, by how you've supported each other and welcomed each other, by the various ways you've expressed faith, and the ways you've made room for differences. What you've done here and what you've become together has inspired us as faculty and staff to continue our work with hope for the future. Thank you for that. It's customary, I suppose, for a president to offer graduates some advice. So here goes. It's been quite a week here at Grebel and around Grebel. It's the sort of week that couldn't quite contain everything that happened in it. And this week offered me many reminders that life doesn't always unfold as we plan. The obvious reminder was the strange winter storm that focused us to reschedule last week's convocation to today. But there have been others, ranging from the funny to the sad, and from the sublime to the ridiculous. Much of what happens to us is beyond our control. The weather does strange and unexpected things. People do strange and unexpected things. You have your plans, and plans are important. But as I'm sure you already know, much of life is about muddling through, showing up despite everything and smiling, making the best of it, finding your friends and your people, summoning flexibility and resilience, patience and grace. And that's the spirit of this event. We're here. We made it here. Welcome to Convocation 2018. In rescheduling this event, we did have to make some adjustments to our program, and one of which is that unfortunately we could not convene a choir for tonight. So we'll move directly into the next item on the program, which is the Convocation address. Let me say a few words about our speaker, Ken Hull. Ken has served as a teacher and professor of music since 1977 He's been part of Grebel for 41 years. I got to know Ken as a student. When I arrived at Grebel in 1991, Ken conducted the chapel choir, and I later served on the board with him in the early 2000s. He represented faculty and I represented the alumni. On the board and inside the college, he's known to have a wise and astute and occasionally pointed voice. He's respected by his colleagues and by me, and he's deeply committed to this place. As noted in your program, Ken has taught 20 different courses at Grebel. His passion is Christian hymnody and worship music, and among other things, outside the classroom, he's the founding conductor of the Spiritus Choir, and in fact, he just finished conducting Mozart's Requiem a couple of hours ago this afternoon, and he rushed here to deliver this address on time. Ken is going to retire this June, and he taught his last class at Grebel a few weeks ago. Following Grebel custom, we interrupted his last class with a cake and a song, which was for He's a Jolly Good Teacher, and this was shared with faculty, staff, and students. We'll find other occasions to celebrate his service here over the next 2 months. Ken, the floor is yours.
Before I begin my address proper, as I was sitting here and hearing about the history of Grebel, I was reminded of a story that Donovan Smucker, who was a professor here in the 60s and 70s, used to tell of going to hear Aldous Huxley, the great British author of Brave New World and other works, going to hear a lecture by him, and he was slated to speak on some philosophical topic. He was introduced, he rose, he stood at the podium, and he reached into his jacket and pulled out his lecture and put it on the podium, and he looked briefly at it and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I find that I have brought my lecture on beekeeping with me." Convocation. He delivered the lecture on beekeeping. President Shantz, Dean Epp, faculty colleagues, graduates, members of the Grebel community, family and friends. It is my honor and a privilege to have been asked to address you all today toward the end of my 41st and final year of teaching at Conrad Grebel University College. I'm not the first departing faculty member to be honored in this way over the years. I take it as a mark of confidence and respect from the Grebel community to have been entrusted with this task, and I thank you. But it does make me suspect that faculty members are viewed a little like bottles of vintage wine. We wait until we believe the wine has fully matured before opening it, being careful not to wait too long when the wine has gone off and turned to vinegar. Convocation addresses are traditionally intended to offer life advice to the graduating class, or at least some reflections on the transition that most of you now face as you leave the comparative security of student life and enter the wider world beyond this institution. Advice giving is a perilous enterprise. For one thing, you are a diverse group of individuals of differing temperaments and experience whose studies collectively embrace the complete range of programs offered at the university. Where one person perhaps needs to be reminded that life is short, don't waste time, the next one needs to be reminded that life is long, so don't try to do everything all at once. One person needs to hear, live your life with gusto, another, live your life reflectively. And good advice depends so much on timing. What resonates with you today might not have a year ago or a year from now. Fortunately, there is always some slippage between what a speaker says and what the listener hears. Most of us who teach have had the experience of meeting a former student who tells us how important to them something was that we said in class, but we have either no recollection of having said it, or of having said it, but having meant something quite different from what the student understood. And this is not a bad thing. We hear in life what we need to hear at the time that we need to hear it, or interpret what we hear in light of our own experience. As Leonard Cohen has famously said, there is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in. If you notice the title of this address in the Convocation program, you may be wondering, students, why I have chosen this particular time in your life to speak about vocation. Haven't you just finished 4 arduous, expensive, and hopefully at least intermittently joyful years earning a degree in preparation for a fulfilling career? But I don't intend the word vocation in the way it is frequently but inaccurately used to refer to a profession, a career, or a job. The word vocation actually means calling, or a life purpose or direction that has not been entirely your own choice, but something to which you are being drawn in response to what you have discerned or felt or heard, a response to some kind of call. For a relatively few people, there may be significant overlap between career and vocation. But for many, or even most people, vocation and career may have only a little in common, or even run in completely parallel with each other. The discernment of one's vocation can also be a lifelong process of gradual unfolding. You may need to live into your vocation over time as understanding and opportunity allow. Quaker educator Parker Palmer has written a wonderful short book on vocation called Let Your Life Speak, Listening for the Voice of Vocation. One of the many wise things that he says in this book is the following: vocation does not mean a goal that I pursue. It means a calling that I hear. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. My favorite thought about vocation comes from American Presbyterian theologian Frederick Buechner. Your vocation lies in the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. The place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. I find this statement helpful because it makes clear that it's not just a matter of coming to understand yourself, but also of understanding the needs of the world in which you live. Both are necessary to fully expressing a vocation. Neither one by itself will bring you to the territory where vocation resides. Expressing vocation will always involve creative negotiation between your sense of pull towards that which energizes you and the social structures and other realities in which you live your life. How easy it would be if society were structured in such a way that you just had to recognize a particular, already existing vocation-shaped opportunity or position and fill it. But vocation requires something messier and more creative from us. And this negotiation with the realities of the world, as we find it, is actually an important part of the process of claiming and clarifying your vocation. It's a little like the chick emerging from its shell. The struggle to break through the shell is a process that is actually essential to the chick's ability to survive. The chick's struggle to emerge from its shell strengthens its muscles and its respiratory system to prepare it for life in the world. If a helpful but misguided person tries to help the chick by removing the shell, the chick often dies. In our culture, especially I think in our religious cultures, we have often focused exclusively on only one half or the other of the dynamic that Buechner talks about, but failed to hold them in creative tension. We have tended to discern vocation only through an individual's deep gladness or through the world's deep hunger, but not both. The fact that I want to do something doesn't by itself make a vocation. And the fact that others think I ought to do something, or that the world would benefit from my doing it, does not make a vocation either. The words want and ought don't have much place in coming to understand vocation. For notice that Buechner speaks not of what I enjoy or want, but of what brings a sense of deep gladness. Notice also that he speaks not of what the world wants or thinks it needs. The world seems to want so much that is unhealthy or destructive, but of the world's deep hunger. The discernment of vocation takes place on a deeper level than just knowing what you're good at or enjoy doing or can be paid well for doing. Not that there's anything wrong with any of those things. But they will not by themselves lead you to a sense of vocation. The world may not recognize what it is hungry for until it experiences it. My first career aspiration, from when I was 5 or 6 years old, was to be a clown. Those who know me will probably laugh at this, as I heard some of them do, because I have found ways of living out this early longing to make people laugh in an academic setting, a setting not always noted for its depth of humor. But I don't think that running away from home and joining the circus would have worked for me. And it's not really what I felt drawn to. I just knew that I felt good deep inside when I made people laugh, especially when things seemed dark or tense. But how do you find your vocation? Some people seem to have been born with a sense of knowing exactly what they feel they were intended to do. But I think that experience is the exception and not the rule. Self-knowledge is important, but the discernment of others can also be helpful and sometimes essential. I remember early in life having a difficult time telling the difference between what I was interested in and what I was passionate about. Friends would sometimes point out how energized I became when talking about certain subjects, but not others. I just hadn't noticed this, or if I had, I didn't recognize its significance. The deep gladness that Buechner talks about is energizing. It feeds you. It carries with it a sense of rightness, being at home, being in the right place at the right time. The fact that you're already good at something and that others can see you are, doesn't itself mean that you're called to do that. You may discover a sense of calling to something about which you have a lot to learn. It's not just about a skills inventory. The other side of Buechner's vocational equation, meeting the deep hunger of the world, grounds the individual's sense of calling in external realities and underscores that while it is my vocation, its purpose is not for me, but for others. In finding ways to express my sense of calling, I do not need to accept uncritically what the world tells me it thinks it needs, but I do need to serve those needs as I perceive them. This concept of vocation as a gift to be used in service to the wider world is deeply rooted in the shared Abrahamic tradition of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. When, as recorded in the book of Genesis, God calls Abraham to a new life, God says, "I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." The picture of vocation that I'm trying to paint for you is, I hope, inspiring, but it can also be discouraging. It can sound very grand and elevated and impossible to achieve, as if we all need to strive to be a Mother Teresa or Malala Yousafzai or Nelson Mandela. But this would be a mistaken understanding. The mark of a vocation is not how important the world views what we do, but how we carry it out. Performing tasks just as a job is fundamentally different from performing the same tasks as a vocation. You may have heard the story of the 3 medieval stonemasons who are visited on their job site and asked to describe what they're doing. The first one says, "I am dressing stone." And the second one says, "I am laying stone." And the third one says, I am helping to build a cathedral. The third Mason was living out a vocation. No matter what the task, we have a choice of performing it as just a job or in the spirit of a vocation. That's not to say that it doesn't matter at all what you choose to do, but it's also possible to miss expressing a vocation just through inattention or indifference to a larger purpose. I haven't told you much about the particulars of my own vocational journey, and there's a reason for that, although I'm going to do that. It's easy to name some of the activities that have helped me to live into a sense of vocation. Making music, teaching music, being a director of music in a congregation, serving on church committees, teaching church music and worship, leading a centering prayer group. Some of these have been part of my work here at Grebel, others not. But it can be very difficult to express in language what a sense of vocation is, as opposed to just listing activities. And I think this is because vocation dwells at the level of intuition and not of language and analysis. If I had to put my current sense of vocation into words, it would be something like to invite others through music and liturgy to a deeper awareness of the spirit that pervades all of life and calls us to live beyond ourselves, reminding us that we are not the center. Well, that's a messy and not very satisfactory sentence. It sounds rather grandiose, and it makes me feel uncomfortable to share it because I'm aware of how imperfectly I live up to it. But I offer it just as one example of what a sense of calling might be like and how it leaves a lot of room for finding ways of living it out. Why does all this vocation stuff matter? Because living out a sense of vocation is both a gift to yourself and a gift to the world. Vocation locates our life as part of a story larger than ourselves. It carries the promise of new levels of energy, meaning, and fulfillment, both for you and for the world. We are hugely blessed in our society to have the security, resources, and opportunity to shape our lives in response to a vocational call. Many places in the world do not. Many times in human history have not. But rather than feeling apologetic or guilty about the opportunities we've been given, we should receive them gratefully and embrace them. Pursuing a vocation is a countercultural thing to do. In a time when feeling comfortable is highly valued, it may require moving out of your comfort zone. At a time when being safe seems to be one of our highest goals, it may call for risk and vulnerability. In a materialistic culture where importance is calculated by most people in terms of financial reward, it may require sacrifice. And in a time of conformity and identity politics, it may require making choices with no precedent and which no one, including you, fully understands. Ultimately, the only person who can give you permission to make truly vocational choices is you. Fortunately, vocation is a journey and not a destination. In the words of the Chinese proverb, the journey is the reward. May you all have open and discerning hearts, the courage to make choices and to persevere, and find deep gladness on your journey.
I invite you to join in the singing of the hymn, Creating God Your Fingers Trace. You'll find it on page 32 of your programs. Please stand.
good to see so many people come out to a postponed event. Wonderful. Although we were a bit worried that the good weather might have turned some people away today. I'm Marlene Knapp, and I am Dean here at Conrad Grebel University College. And together with President Shantz, it's my honor and privilege to present to you the students who will be receiving University of Waterloo degrees in June or October of this year. We're honoring them today because they are completing programs offered at Conrad Grebel University College, or they have made Grebel their home community during a significant part of their time at the University of Waterloo. As we celebrate their accomplishments today, we acknowledge that some of them may still have some academic work to do. Maybe a few exams to write, some final projects, theses. When that is completed and assessed, they will receive their University of Waterloo degrees. So today is a celebration not only of accomplishments, but also anticipation and hope. I think we can all be confident in our hope today. Well, students, we've come to know you during your time here. We value your ideas, your talents, your hopes, your dreams. When you move across the stage to be congratulated by President Marcus Shantz, to be recognized by the head of the Grebel academic unit in which you studied, if that is applicable, and to receive a commemorative gift, know that all of us in the college community are present in these gestures. So gifts will be presented to all undergraduate students by Student Services Director Mary Brubaker-Zare, and to graduate students by administrative staff Kelly Brown and Melody Shirk. We'll begin by honoring the undergraduates who will receive their University of Waterloo bachelor's degrees at one of the convocation ceremonies in June or October. They're from all faculties at the university: arts, applied health sciences, engineering, environment, mathematics, or science. Many of these students were part of the Grebel residential community while studying at the university, whether living at Grebel or associating with the community. Some of the students we honor today were in the University of Waterloo undergraduate programs based here at Conrad Grebel: music, peace and conflict studies, and Mennonite studies. All of you have enriched life at Grebel, and we thank you. So before I ask the undergraduate students, the first row, to stand, I'm just going to remind you of what you are to do. When you come up the ramp on the side, we invite you to stop at the microphone and say a few words about what's next for you. You'll be congratulated by President Marcus Shantz. If you are a music or a PAC student, you will be congratulated by Laura Gray or Nathan Funk. Then you will meet Mary and pick up a mug and a card and then return to your seat. So I invite the first row of undergraduate students to come forward. And to the audience, I say, after all of the students have been acknowledged, I will invite you to join me in enthusiastic applause. So in other words, please hold your applause, if you can, till the end. Asha Abu Baker.
Yeah, I'm going to be working for a few years and then I'm applying to law school.
Trevor Alkema.
Come May, I hope to visit my fiancée in Australia as she's on exchange there, and in October I plan to marry that same fiancée. And in between, hopefully I can swing getting a job.
Amelia Baker.
I will be traveling to France this summer for a 6-week mission trip, and then we'll be starting the Master's of Theological Studies program here at Convocation.
Anika Boschwa-Pashik.
In May, I will be joining Health I Am, a previous co-op employer, for full-time work. And until then, I'll be playing as many video games as possible.
Micah Brubaker-Zare.
I'm starting a job at Wealth Simple on June 4th as a bilingual relationship manager.
Jesse Burt.
I'll be working at Fake Tech this summer with my two best friends, and I hope to continue to follow Jesus the best I can.
Patrick Carroll.
I'm going to be taking some time off after graduation, and that will include a couple of 10-day sailing trips on the west coast in BC.
Elizabeth Chan.
I will be working full-time in the human services field and applying to post-degree programs for next year.
Yang Chen.
I'm interviewing for jobs in the tech industry as a product designer and manager, and continuing to do music on the side by arranging a cappella and hopefully writing a musical.
Michaela Collins.
I came into this program with the intention of learning how to make positive change in the world, so now it's time to go out there and do that.
Andrew Kuhn.
I'm going to be working on campus with a science camp for kids, and then we'll be considering Teachers College in the fall.
Benjamin Craig.
I'm doing software development with startups in the KW region.
Olga Denisova.
Good evening. I'm planning to continue working at a beer company and going back to school in September for cultural management.
Micah Diller Harder.
I will be working at the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs and traveling to Europe for a couple weeks.
Brian Frater.
I'm going to be working as a research assistant at the University of Waterloo, going to Japan for a couple weeks, and starting my master's in English here at the University of Waterloo in the fall.
Anna Giesbrecht.
After graduation, I'm going to start reading for fun again, and in the fall, I'm going to be traveling.
Claire Haggard.
I just started a position at a startup here in Waterloo. Nothing to do with music, so I'm going to continue with that and see where it takes me.
Laura Hurgett.
Hi everyone. Shortly I will be getting on a plane, heading over to the Philippines. So you can probably expect not to see me for a little while. And when I come back, I'm looking for work with older adults. Maybe I'll see some of you around.
John Hinton.
Hello everyone. I'm graduating with a mechanical engineering degree, and this summer I'm going to be working for a framer that has degree to improve their processes.
Erin Houston.
In the fall, I will be heading across the street to local Laura University to be pursuing my master's in social justice and community engagement.
Jessica Jones.
I will be going to my second year of my own organic vegetable and mushroom farm on Vancouver Island.
Amelia Clausen.
I am going to India this summer to become a yoga teacher, and then in the fall I'm starting my master's in science of health promotion at Western.
Emily Cornelson.
This summer, I'll be working as a research assistant at Holland Blairview Children's Rehabilitation Hospital before hopefully pursuing more education in the fall.
Amelia Lammers.
In the fall, I'll be attending CCMH from South City, and then in the summer, I'll be getting married.
Aaron McDonald.
I'm planning on going to law school in September.
Robert Charles McGregor.
I'm going to be taking a year off to go to the next step, and in doing so, I'm going to become the greatest stay-at-home son.
Emily Meckler.
In October, I'll be going to Israel to do my master's in conflict resolution and mediation at the University of Tel Aviv.
Amelia Marquisi.
Hi, Mom. I will be working at Romero House in Toronto with refugees.
Aidan Morley.
Hey, I will be doing.
Cassie Myers.
I'll be doing full-time on my startup and hoping for the best.
Adrian Neufeld.
Well, for those that know me, I don't plan much in advance, so I have nothing planned except for marrying a lovely lady over there in October.
Amanda Obeng Nsia.
That was really cool, thank you. I'm planning to take some time off to replenish my bank account, to hopefully travel, do some volunteering, and then eventually do postgraduate stay.
Rebecca Osborne.
This summer I will be traveling Europe with my younger sister, and then in the fall I'll be starting my master's at the University of Guelph in environmental science and toxicology.
Joanna Powell.
Next month, I'll be launching a new creative music studio called Music Makers, as well as releasing a professionally recorded demo album in Toronto.
Daniel Penner.
I'll be working in the field of user experience design, but before that, I'll be getting married to Katie Steckley.
Tyler Reedy.
This summer I'll be teaching music at Mohawk College, and then in the fall I'll be starting graduate studies in music therapy at Wilkes-Barre University.
Jacob Reeser.
I'm going to be traveling and looking for employment. Attend physiotherapy school and pursue a career in neuro rehabilitation.
Emily Schmidt.
I will be finishing off my degree in the fall with an exchange to Helsinki, Finland.
Tyler Schwarzentrooper.
I'm also just escaping and looking for full-time work.
Matthew Synagoga.
Thank you. I'd like to say that I'm going to be exploring international business opportunities this summer, and I would like to thank everyone who helped me get to this point. Cheers, Waterloo.
Andrew Smith.
I just started
In that, talk to me after. And then in the fall, we started work.
Katie Steckley.
I'm excited to be getting married to Daniel Penner in June, as previously mentioned. And after that, I plan on continuing my freelance videography business.
Kaylee Swanson.
Kaylee!
I'm looking forward to visiting Greece for the first time over the summer, and then to starting my master's in global governance here in Waterloo in September.
Nathaniel Trimboli.
At this point, I have no idea, but I'll look for something in rehabilitation.
William Sherman.
This summer I'll be working with the farm animals at the Waterloo Region Museum, and in the fall I'm going to be returning here to master's studies in urban planning.
David Vanderwind.
This summer I'll be working for an affordable housing charity in Hamilton, and then in September moving to BC, working for a church helping develop affordable housing, but the main draws are this particular gal out there.
Caitlin Walker.
Next week, I start my career as an archaeology field technician until the ground freezes, and then I will take some time off, and hopefully next fall we'll be continuing studies surrounding human osteology and forensics.
Lucas Weinberger.
In May, I will be starting working with Tacoma Engineers as a structural designer.
Erin Yancey.
I was excited not to be the last person, and then Caleb and Tess didn't show up, so but the good news is we are all one step closer to those many pages.
So as Erin returns to her seat, I invite all of you undergraduates to stand and face the audience. Please join me in congratulating.
Every year, the undergraduates nominate a student to give the valedictory address. As you can see from your program, the student chosen this year is Jared Grebel. Jared came to study at the University of Waterloo in 2013. He applied to live in residence at Grebel, and we are glad he did. And it seems Jared is glad he did too. In an application for a leadership role at Grebel a couple of years ago, he wrote, and I quote, "Deciding to live at Grebel was one of the best decisions I ever made." End of quote. We like to hang on to those kind of statements at Grebel. Jared has been a wonderful community member and has enriched community life for many here. He has held an array of formal leadership roles, including being on student council and serving as a Don, running orientation week for Grebel. And when not giving formal leadership, he has been an informal mover and shaker. Not long ago, for example, he led a weekly evening discussion group that ran for a few terms on the very small topic of, does God exist? Jared is not afraid of big questions. Most importantly, though, Jared has related to a broad spectrum of students, not clinging to his own cohort, but extending warmth and hospitality to new entering students each year in his community. He is connected to faculty and staff at Grebel through our courses and through many lunch conversations. I would like to welcome Jared to the podium now, but unfortunately I can't. Earlier this week, he boarded a plane for Cambodia and to do some important humanitarian work that combines his engineering passion and expertise with his commitment to making this world a better place. If Convocation had gone as planned last week, he would have been here now, standing before you. But when weather has a mind of its own, as Marcus said, our plans have to change and we need to flex. So tonight, though, I welcome all of us to listen to a recorded version of Jared giving his valedictory address. Enjoy.
So it is my absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to address all of you here today. A huge congratulations to the graduating class. Let's give a round of applause to all of you. These weeks hold many lasts for us. Last class of undergrad, last late night studying, last walk across campus amidst angry geese, last assignment submitted seconds before the deadline, and today some last goodbyes. As we close our degrees, this is the time to reflect on the past 4 or 5 years. When we started here at Grebel and the University of Waterloo, many of us were just graduating high school. And while on one hand, this time has flown by, and I think we can all relate to that, on the other hand, high school feels so distant in those 4 or 5 years. The beginning of that seems so long ago. So let's take a minute to think about just how far we've come in our time here. Think about the crazy amount of things we've learned. We've learned how to live away from home, how to write a resume, ace a presentation, how to nail a performance, and definitely how to amass debt. We've learned the content from 40 courses worth of sometimes incomprehensible lectures and proceeded promptly to forget all of that content. We learned how to wrestle with what we believe, how to ask the hard questions, how to be there for a friend in need, and sometimes how to be that friend in need. We learned how to pass exams and how to fail them, but more importantly, how to get up again. We learned how to get along with new people in new places. Look at everyone around you today and just think back to how different life was before they entered your life. And what makes me really, really proud is that this transformation, whatever that looks like for each and every one of us, was a friggin' battle. Sometimes the obstacles felt like boulders being hurled our way. Mental health, physical health, relationships, burnout, failure. And yet here we are, proud of what we've achieved and so much better for it. University is learning about how to learn. And the exciting thing to me is that if we turn that into a lifestyle, we'll continue to grow for the rest of our lives. There are 90 of us graduating today, fewer than that here in person. But if you multiply that by 60 years roughly of career each, that's about 3,600 years of collective career that we have ahead of us to impact the world and the state it's currently in. Graduating here in Canada at Grebel and the University of Waterloo, we find ourselves in a position of immense opportunity to right some of the many wrongs out there. And to me, that is incredibly exciting stuff. So around this time last year, there were a group of us from Grebel who escaped out to the countryside to record an album. Together we enjoyed a time of jam sessions where we didn't have to worry about schedules or expectations. We spent the time making music, throwing frisbees, cooking, and just hanging out. Everyone was free to be themselves and enjoy a weekend full of harmony in both the musical sense and relational sense of the word. Now this wouldn't be a true Grebel speech if community wasn't a theme. And that weekend was a beautiful image of what community is all about. And it's stories like these that we will remember as we reflect back on our time here. So, a heartfelt thank you to all the friends who weren't afraid to go deep or to go to McDonald's well after midnight. Thank you to the Grebel staff and faculty for shaping Grebel with such great skill and care, and for putting up with our many pranks around residents, and occasionally on the roof or in the president's office. Wish I could give Marcus Shantz a look right now. And finally, thank you to friends and family who supported us from afar, providing love, encouragement, and sometimes food shipments to help us make it this far. Grads, make the most of your remaining time, your remaining days here. Hold tight to the relationships you've built. Some of these people are the people who will be in your wedding parties and maybe one day at your retirement parties. And I am so incredibly excited to see what we all achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. He's a really great guy, and he does exist. And, I think you'll be able to see Jared and hear his speech again on Grebel's YouTube channel at some point. Is that right? So the next set of students that we'll honor are our graduate students. Conrad Grebel has 2 graduate programs. A Master of Theological Studies, which celebrates its 30th anniversary this year, and a Master of Peace and Conflict Studies, which is celebrating its 5th anniversary this year. And we're delighted that these classes just keep growing, and we have a robust set of graduate programs here. We'll start with our Master of Peace and Conflict Studies students. They will receive their degrees from the University of Waterloo in June or October of this year. They will receive their graduate hoods at that ceremony and not at this one. They are, however, wearing special master's gowns to celebrate their accomplishments. And we had to actually, I'm afraid, send back our undergraduate gowns because we couldn't keep them the extra week. So sorry, undergraduates, that you're not gowned today, but we have our master's students' gowns. So I invite our Master of Peace and Conflict Studies students to stand and move towards the stage. And similarly, you will go to the microphone, say a few words to the audience, be congratulated by President Shantz and by Program Director Nathan Funk, and Kelly Brown will give you a gift. Riaz Basi.
Hello, I'm going to enjoy my freedom and I'm going to thank India and me.
Tyler Cox.
Hello, I'm going to continue pursuing interest in peace education and social justice, as well as researching the systemic roots of violence.
Jana Martin.
I just started working at Mennonite Central Committee, Ontario as the Social Enterprise Assistant.
Trudy Metzger.
So the first thing I plan to do is to relieve my husband of housekeeping duties, which he has faithfully done for 2 years. This summer I will continue to work with the charity that we run, Generations Unleashed, working with victims of sexual violence internationally. And in the fall I begin my PhD, University of Waterloo, Sociology, and I'm bringing together crime and religion, which is where I'm most experienced.
Matthew Morales.
So I don't have that much time, but thinking about vocation, thinking about learning how to live and helping other people encounter each other.
Tim O'Connor.
Since I'm the oldest graduate here, I'm going to skip work and go right to retirement. I'm hoping, I am near the end of my teaching career, and I hope to continue to be involved in peace education and social justice education and working at a peace camp called Camp Micah. Thank you.
Conchita Rodriguez Fragoso.
I've been working at Knowledge First Financial for the past few months in human resources, and I'm hoping to expand my career in corporate social responsibility and employee engagement.
Lindsay Sheridan.
I'd like to give a shout out to my grandma in the front row and all the faculty who made my master's degree such an amazing 2 years, and I'm moving forward hopefully to do work in international policy.
Jessica Williams.
My plans are to be determined still, but I hope to find a job in the field of peace and conflict.
So I'll invite all of our MPAC students to stand and face the audience. Please join me in congratulating them. Students in our Master of Theological Studies program receive a conjoint degree from Conrad Grebel University College and the University of Waterloo. Today we provisionally confer the degree with the authority granted to this college. We symbolize this action by having Jeremy Bergen, director of the program, hood the graduates. University of Waterloo will soon confer the completion of all degree requirements and will confirm the degree and present the diploma at the appropriate convocation ceremony in June or October. I'm going to ask the MGS students to stand, but don't move just yet. So please stand. Thank you. President Shantz, I am pleased to present these candidates to you for the degree Master of Theological Studies. They have been approved for graduation by the Board of Governors of Conrad Grebel University College, pending completion of all requirements in their program of studies.
By virtue of the authority granted to me by the Board of Governors of Conrad Grebel University College and the Province of Ontario, and pending completion of all program requirements, I hereby bestow on you the degree of Master of Theological Studies with all of the privileges and responsibilities of that degree.
Jonathan Berger.
I'll be continuing with my wife on the pastoral leadership team at Catch the Fire Kitchener. And I will also affirm the observation of many that she is a saint, and that's why I'm here today, which is another way of saying that I will be vacuuming the floor and doing laundry when I get home tonight. I will also be continuing as a freelance graphic designer, copywriter, and amateur theologian, which is another way of saying I will post theologically motivated rants on social media.
Zach Charbonneau.
I'm going to try and get a job working at a church somewhere. I do have a counseling degree, quite a bit of psychology, so I may start a cult if that doesn't work out. I see they're giving out books over there, so I guess I'll read that now. And my comedy show is May 12th and 12th, so come check it out. Yeah.
Colleen Dotser.
I'm so thankful for the opportunity to study at Grebel and for the support of my family and my husband. And I'm a chaplain at Nephew Community Long-Term Care and working toward my pastoral counseling education with an internship at Grand River Hospital.
Catherine Elliott.
I will continue to let my husband do the vacuuming, and I'll let my 4 children keep doing the dishes. And but what I really hope to do is to help be a midwife of bringing in an era of solidarity between the global north and the global south, so that there is solidarity, creativity, and reconciliation.
Taryn Faraday.
I will be playing with my dog and going to the beach and continuing my work as a youth pastor in the area.
Alex Hoffman.
In order to complete my pending requirements, I intend to do an internship with Wycliffe Bible translators over the summer.
Heather Homewood.
So in September, I'll return to full-time teaching in the Waterloo Region high schools. And for now, I'm going to recover from jet lag because I just got back from Europe. So thank you to the weather for postponing this convocation.
Laura Claver.
pursuing licensing and ordination in the Be in Christ, as well as doing something else that I forgot. Just a thank you to my incredible husband for forcing me to do papers when I didn't want to. Thank you.
Michael Sheehan.
I'm going to continue to pastor my church, Central Church, KW, Uptown Waterloo. If you don't have a church, 10 a.m. Sunday mornings, 185 King Street South, you're welcome. Especially if you're in a higher income level and
Graham Watson.
I'm going immediately after this to get a beer. And then I'm going to continue working full-time at Elevation Church with youth and now adults too. So I'm biking and canoeing and hanging out with my wife, who I think would have technically met in this room many years ago on orientation day.
Nespen Zemi.
Hi, Jerry Halley. Yeah, I'm very excited to be starting phase 2 of my life, though I heard that it's possible to skip the whole thing and go straight to retirement. About that. It's very interesting. I have a pastoral responsibility at the church in Toronto, but I've also discovered a passion for organizational consulting, so those are the areas that I'm looking for.
I invite the MTS students to stand and face the audience. Thank you.
It's my distinct pleasure to introduce tonight's graduate valedictorian, Tyler Cox, who began his studies in fall 2015 by commuting all the way from Huntsville, where he had been working as a pastor. Now he lives in the Waterloo region with his wife Heather and their 2 children, Leland and Willow. Those who have shared a seminar classroom or a prolonged conversation with Tyler can attest that he's a deep thinker. He has a nimble mind and a broad intellectual range that encompasses the social sciences as well as theology. He consistently has substantive things to say about the matter at hand, whether it concerns the historical roots of racial injustice, or Gord Downey's parting overtures and the opportunity they provide to really listen to the story of Channing Wenjack. As challenging as these thoughts may be, Tyler also has gifts for lighter conversation, and he was chosen by classmates for the MPACT student leadership position of president. So these are the essential things you need to know about Tyler Cox before his address. But let me add one more comment concerning the quality of engagement he brings to peace and conflict issues. Where some of us may, at least some of the time, use concepts as shields, or as vehicles for abstraction, in effect moving away or distancing ourselves from pain and suffering, Tyler consistently uses concepts to build bridges toward difficult reality. Convocation having a transformative dimension. He knows that of which he speaks. So we thank you, Tyler, for including us in your journey.
Thank you, Nathan, for those kind words. And good evening, friends. It's good to be here. First thing I want to do is just say that I'm honored. It's a huge privilege to be able to represent my fellow graduates. And while it would be, I acknowledge that it would be very difficult to speak to every individual experience, I hope to acknowledge some of the commonalities that I both experienced and observed through my time here at Conrad Grebel. Furthermore, I would like to congratulate my fellow graduates and acknowledge all of the hard work and dedication that has brought us here. For each one of us to be where we are today means that those closest to us have given of their resources, their time, money, emotional, even physical energy. And so it's important to thank those people, whomever they may be, and hopefully some of you are here this evening, for their support and belief in us. So thank you. Completing a master's degree is an accomplishment that encompasses many high points, laughter, friendship, and personal transformation. It requires commitment, discipline, and perseverance. It carries with it hope for the future and helps us establish a solid foundation for both our professional and personal lives. As both theology and peace and conflict graduates, we haven't chosen the most linear path for our lives. We've chosen to be trained in disciplines that understand there is a need for justice, peace, and love in the world. As such, these disciplines grapple with complex questions and recognize just how difficult. These disciplines understand that change is time-consuming and that the constructive choices we make today may not bear fruit for generations. There's a great deal of persistence that I've discovered in my time here. It's embedded into the programs, but it's also ingrained in the attitudes of people. As I've had some time to reflect upon my experience at Grebel, I think what I'll remember most is that the people here were not afraid of change. They seemed to be at peace with knowing that change is perpetual, and that if it could be embraced, it would create a unique and diverse learning experience. To that end, Grebel was a place where learning was embraced as a process instead of something expected to garner immediate results. Learning often involves making mistakes, being wrong, and counting those experiences as signposts and signals that we're headed in the right direction. To be mistaken or to fail in some way doesn't need to signal the end of our efforts, but rather these things can signal the beginning of a journey towards change. This ties into what's perhaps the thing that Grebel has done most effectively, and that is facilitate for its students the process of transformation. Transformation is part of the rhythm of life, the constant change, the letting go and grabbing hold. Philosopher Paul Ricoeur refers to this rhythm as using the phrase orientation, disorientation, and reorientation. Orientation is a place of comfort where the world makes sense and answers come easy. Perhaps this is where many of us begin and start over again. Then as we grow, learn new ideas, and interact with new people, our assumptions unravel and we learn things that disorient us. In this place, we confront the stark realization that the world as we once knew it is far more complex and difficult to understand. And at this point, being wrong becomes commonplace. Our easy answers fail to satisfy. And then, oftentimes after a series of failures, comes reorientation. This is the place where we're comforted once again. But this time, we can live with unknowing and an understanding that in time, our assumptions will need to be challenged again. It is here that we can make peace with the seeming instability and mystery of life. To speak of the kind of learning environment that exists at Grebel is to understand that there was something communicated to us that said it was okay to stumble and fall if we needed. That transformation is an accepted and supported part of the learning process. I would like to suggest that the permission to fall, to engage in this process of change, can extend beyond Grebel. That this pattern of personal evolution is never ending and envelops every season of life. That as we continue with persistence towards what we most desire, towards the things that create meaning and hope in the world, we would welcome both our accomplishments and failures as our teachers and friends. That we would continue to extend grace and forgiveness to ourselves and to others. In closing, I would like to quote the Christian teacher Julian of Norwich, who I think sums up what I've just said quite succinctly. First there is the fall, and then we recover from the fall. Both are the mercy of God. Thank you.
Please join me in the singing of our second hymn at the dawning of creation. You'll find it on page 33. Please stand.
Stars and angels
us gather our hearts and minds in prayer. Holy and faithful God, Jesus, our mighty Savior and gracious friend, Holy Spirit, breath of creation and fragrance of love, we praise your name. Thank you for the beauty of this day. Thank you for the work of our students, for their lives shared, wisdom acquired, and commitments made. Bless them with those things that make life good: friendship and purpose, kindness and joy. May contentment be theirs, food, shelter, and a grateful heart. With thanksgiving, we pray a blessing on friends and family, faculty and staff. May their love return magnified by compassion. May their work return in the beauty of wisdom. Holy Guide, help us assert the victory of your love against cruelty and injustice. Help us turn the privilege of learning into joy for doing good. Help us be alert to the needs of your earth and its people, so that we might abandon ourselves to the work of your peace. Bless all who traveled life's paths here and from here. Bless us all in the closing of this day with rest and warmth, friends and family. Keep us joined now and always in our hearts and prayers. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Graduates of 2018, congratulations again. The best wishes from all of us as you move on to whatever's next. Please stay in touch with us as alumni. You'll be hearing from us as well. As I mentioned, this has been quite a week at Grebel, and the staff and faculty who have pulled this event together have gone far above and well beyond normal expectations. Please join me in thanking them. Thank you very much, Ken, for your address, and to you, Tyler, and to Jared somewhere in Cambodia for your remarks as well. I'm glad I know who pulled the prank. We have a reception planned in the dining room, and you're all invited to join us there in a few minutes. Owing to the tight space in this room, we will not have a formal recessional out of this hall, but we do have recessional music, which will commence when I'm finished speaking. When that starts, you're free to begin moving around, but please keep conversations low until you leave the hall, because some will want to attend to the music. We will have time for photos right here after the recessional, so students, please stay and wait for further instructions at that time. Guests, family are welcome to take photos from the side, but please leave room for our crack team of professional photographers to do their work. That concludes our ceremony. Thanks for coming.